The UK government is expected to unveil a crackdown on climate activism. Ministers are pressing ahead with a dual action on climate protests and strikes. But Britons aren't ready to back down easily. They blocked streets in London and poured milk on the floor of department store Harrods. Home Secretary Suella Braverman will soon announce plans to grant the UK police new powers. These powers are expected to give the officers a more proactive approach when it comes to countermeasures favoured by climate activists. Reports also say that the UK government is pursuing legal moves to impose minimum service levels for officers who go on strikes. Home Secretary Braverman has vowed to use the government's public order bill to allow secretaries of state to apply for injunctions in the public interest. These injunctions would come into force if protests cause or threaten serious disruption or adverse impacts on public safety. Reports say that the proposed legislation, if enacted, would create a new criminal offence of interfering with businesses such as oil refineries, airports, railways and printing presses. The offence could carry a maximum sentence of 12 months in prison and an unlimited fine. The expected crackdown has attracted criticism from climate activists and worker unions, especially from Just Stop Oil, the group that doused a showroom of luxury car maker Aston Martin in orange paint. This comes after the group members threw paint on Van Gogh's Sunflower, which is worth some $84 million. Meanwhile, in East London, 30 Just Stop Oil demonstrators gathered on Shoreditch High Street to demonstrate. They set up roadblocks to disrupt traffic and even glued themselves to the road. The police reported that 26 of the protesters were arrested on Saturday. Reports also say that more than 350 Just Stop Oil protesters have been arrested in London since the start of October. The group is calling for the government to halt all new oil and gas extraction licenses. Animal Rebellion protesters also expressed their discontent by pouring milk onto shop floors, displays and products across the UK. Now the question arises if the proposed legislation on climate activism will tone down the protests in the UK or in fact incite them further. And for more details about what's happening on ground, joining us now is our correspondent Alex Izad from London. Alex, welcome to the broadcast. Now, we've been showing our viewers some of the visuals of the protests that have taken place in the UK of late. People gluing themselves to streets, throwing colour on Van Gogh's famous painting, even throwing milk across shops in protest. And now this new proposed bill, if enacted, it could curb climate activism or in fact incite it further. Your views?
Absolutely. It seems to every single day that there is something from Stop Oil protests. Right now, they are just by Westminster. It looks like there is a huge police presence here. They have recently, you just go behind me, thrown soup on the Department of Energy and Climate here on Victoria Street in Westminster. There is a huge police presence, as I said, and that is taking a lot of police away from on-the-ground crimes. The fact that these people here are stuck to the floor, there's already been some arrests that I've seen. Now, when Suella Braverman has been suggesting that all of these new rules and laws will come into place, it could enhance all of these, but at the moment we're seeing so many different factions of Extinction Rebellion, Just Stop Oil, Enough is Enough, also all the strikes that are going on. I think people generally, the general public, are very confused exactly what these people are asking for. Just Stop Oil want the government to stop fracking and stop the use of fossil fuels, but actually it is detrimental to the average person that wants to get to work and the average person that just wants to get by. So these new laws will try and put a stop to these kind of protests, whether in the streets, will allow police to use more powers and have longer arrests So, for example, there may be a new tunnelling law for this criminal legislation, which people, if they get arrested from having huge disruption, not like this one, but potentially like the one in Essex on the QE2 bridge, they could see up to 3 years in jail. Now, a lot of these protesters here tell me that they don't mind being arrested. And in fact, since April, 1,700 arrests have been made, and only 5 been in prison. But there is a fine line between doing something to just annoy and cause a scene to actually making like damage, because that Van Gogh painting is now damaged. The frame is damaged itself, not the painting itself. And that is a fine line.
Right, absolutely, Alex. In fact, we can see a lot of security presence. Authorities are on the streets right behind you on the screen as of now. Just taking off from the question that you just raised, that is this activism a hindrance to public life, or does it actually relay a message? So where will authorities draw that line? And will this stop protesters from taking to the streets? Because it's essentially criminalizing climate activism.
Of course, it is our human right to be able to protest and have our say. So it won't stop people protesting, but it will try and stop things where people cannot get by. Right now, they don't actually open the pathways for anyone trying to get to hospital or ambulances or police, because they are trying to make that stand. And as I said, they don't mind getting arrested. So these new potential public order bills that could come into place is basically going to try and protect infrastructure, because it's not a human right to damage other people's property. Suella Braverman called it hideously selfish. And the new criminal offence, again, will be if you're locking yourself to a building, that again will be the police can get in there, cut you out, and that's potential 6 months imprisonment. But it shouldn't stop protests, because people should be able to have their say. And I don't think this is what this is trying to do. It's not stopping people from having their say. It's just making sure that they aren't disrupting other people. We've seen in Washington today that people are using guns on activists, and we don't want to get like that in the UK, where people are vigilante and taking it on their own hands. We saw last week when the milk was spilt on the floor in Fortnum & Mason, and Selfridges, that one of the customers got involved and there was an assault that happened. And I don't think that the Home Secretary or the police want that to happen now.
Right, Alex, thank you so much for all those inputs, and thanks for joining us on WION from London at this hour. WION World is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.